So I got an interesting comment about Putin potentially dropping a nuke. So I'll give you my thoughts on that, as well as the new Oreshnik missile they used recently in Ukraine. But before all of that, let me address this one comment real quick. It'll take hopefully less than 5 minutes, so feel free to skip ahead. Gladius says, quote, "So when Kamala was running, you had nothing to say about her or Biden, or did I miss something?" Unquote. Okay, what's the argument? What are you saying? We're not privy to your internal monologue, right? So I make a whole video about, well, how the right wing, who is so keen pointing out that the left leaning media is fake news, believed everything the left leaning media told them about Trump. And it seems to me, and I also explain the true meaning of America first, or maybe a double meaning, what Trump really meant when he said that, something that these Trump lovers, supporters, weren't aware of, apparently, misinterpreted. So I gave you probably a couple of eye-opening points. I made a couple of eye-opening, they should be eye-opening points, right? If you're an intelligent human being who's, smart enough to know that you don't know everything, right? You should have been appreciative, I thought. Or at the very least, and this would be a way of showing appreciation, I suppose, also, you could have disagreed with what I had to say and addressed the video, right? The points made in the video, how I was wrong if you thought I was. So I'll make a whole video with at least a couple of, forgive me for being a little not humble, salient points, and you didn't address the video at all. But you made a comment which suggests that I should be somehow privy to your internal monologue and preempt whatever feelings you may have or satisfy them somehow in my video, when you yourself haven't even attempted to address what's in my video, my explicit thoughts laid out for you. You're expecting me to somehow preemptively read your mind and satisfy your desires with some video about Kamala. I don't even know what it is that I was supposed to say about her, right? And you're implying that I'm a hypocrite in some way, shape, or form. That seems to be the implication. You had nothing to say about Kamala. Okay, what do you mean? What are you implying? Make an argument, right? Tell me what it is that I should have said and why you think I didn't, right? Because you're clearly implying that there's something nefarious going on, right? That I'm somehow biased or in some way, shape, or form immoral. Well, if that's your argument, make it. And, maybe I'm taking it too far. This implication that I somehow like Kamala or support Kamala or I'm somehow fond of her because I didn't criticize her when and how you wanted me to. Something I couldn't possibly have any idea about. If that's the implication, then ask yourself this. What if I had ignored your comment completely? Would you have considered me an ally? I don't talk about a lot of different things or people. So, make an argument. And, to be fair, I'm glad I didn't waste time talking about a loser. I mean, what a waste of time it would have been to consider Kamala. What a waste of time, for me anyway, it would have been to talk about the election. The results of which I tend to believe were already predetermined. I wasn't sure who it was going to be, but I wasn't going to waste my time, pondering that. For what reason? And one more thing, because you seem to think that people are somehow fond of politicians, and they are. You're right about that, but that's because you are. You seem to be very fond of Trump. You have some kind of an emotional attachment to the guy, all right? Because me criticizing, I wasn't even really criticizing Trump, but yeah, some things I said about him were definitely critical. That he's, a degenerate, because he is, right? Congratulations, America. You elected a felon. And it's this goes to my point, right? That I'm about to make. On some level, people understand politics, but then on some level, they don't, right? So politics is not about morality. Get that idea out your head, right? And people seem to understand that. Well, I'm not sure they do, because maybe they tell themselves that, well, Trump isn't a bad guy. It's all manufactured evidence. It's all lies. They're just trying to bring him down because he's such a good guy. That's how a lot of people see this. But then there's also people who just don't care, because they understand that the politics is not about morality, right? So when you guys, some of you people out there, get this emotional attachment to a politician, and you're fond of them, and you somehow imagine, whether right or wrong, that they're good people and that's why you should follow them, well, clearly you don't understand politics, right? Politics is not about morality. Anytime you hear anybody, and this is a game they play on you, right? When one side accuses the other side of hypocrisy, like that's supposed to mean something. I mean, yeah, if you're coming at it from a moral standpoint, right? Like what's right or what's wrong, fair enough. But these politicians, they're using this morality, which they themselves don't actually abide by, just to brainwash you, just to get you on their side, because they know that you're emotional beings, or they just know that this is how you should play the game, and you're going to respond to it emotionally. So this whole talk of hypocrisy in politics, that's stupid. That's for the rank and file. You're supposed to be a hypocrite as a politician. This isn't about what's right or wrong politics. It's about power. You get to do things that you don't want the other side to be able to do. You want to take their power away from them and usurp it for yourself. Of course, politics is about hypocrisy. That's what it's supposed to be. It's not about feelings. It's not supposed to be. For them, at their level, when it comes to politics, politicians, they understand this. It's not about whether you like or dislike somebody. It's about, what have you done for me lately? What are you going to do for me? That's politics. Get that through your thick fucking head. Trump doesn't give a shit about you. He doesn't even know you exist. Okay? So hold him to account. If he promises you things, well, make sure or pressure him in any way you can to give you what's yours, what's promised. Or learn and don't get duped again. Gladius, you're wholeheartedly, pun intended, too emotional. Forget about it. It's stupid. You didn't say anything about Kamala. Why the fuck would I waste time with Kamala? What do you want me to do? Make another one of them brain dead stupid videos about her cackle? That'll what? That'll show you that how unbiased I am? Get the fuck out of here. Get out of here. Don't be stupid. Come, for real. I say that because on some level I do care. All right? And if you have an argument, fucking make it. I'm not in your fucking... I don't know what the fuck you're thinking. Nobody's in your head except you. Anyway, so a lot has been said about Trump using a nuke. Did I say Trump using a nuke? I meant to say Putin using one. But I guess I slipped up a little bit because guess what? US has them too. So, well, let's start with Patriarch Kirill talking about one of Putin's hypersonic penises. Fanning fears about possible apocalyptic scenarios, excessive alarmism, and speculation on nuclear topics are not spiritually beneficial. Is he criticizing Putin? Seems like it, right?
Страха вокруг возможных апокалиптических сценариев, чрезмерный алармизм и спекуляции на ядерную тему не полезны с духовной точки зрения.
Yeah, sounds like that's what he said. The enemy of humanity seeks to sow confusion and anxiety in people's hearts, to paralyze their will, and to rob them of courage.
Враг рода человеческого пытается посеять смятение и тревогу в сердцах людей, чтобы парализовать их волю и лишить их мужества, ибо человеком, лишенным душевного...
A person deprived of inner peace is easier to manipulate, right? This is straight out of KGB PSYOP warfare, psychological warfare handbook, right? He, as a former KGB agent, rumor has it, is very well aware. He's familiar with this doctrine, right? And no, he's not talking about Putin. Not yet, anyway. But the West that's somehow threatening... What? Who the fuck are these people? Seriously. Who takes them seriously? This is supposed to be the West somehow threatening Putin with a nuke, right? They're obviously projecting because it's been them threatening the world with a nuke, and he just gave you the reasons why they do this, right? It's to manipulate people. Okay? They're not gonna use a nuke. And they're showing you their own fear because they understand what the retaliation would be. And look, nobody wins a nuclear exchange, okay? Let's just understand that. But if anybody survives this shit, it's not going to be the Russians. Because half of them nukes that they launch are going to fall on fucking Russia. Or close enough to Russia, right? Because, look, they don't have the money to upkeep all the shit that you think they have. They just don't have the money to maintain all these missiles. Now, I'm not dismissing the fact that I believe, that people believe, and I agree, that Russia has enough nukes to set the world on fire. Okay, I'm not dismissing any of that. But what I am saying is that, well, they launched some missile recently, and it went like, what, 200 meters away from the launch pad, and, you know, they basically, they bombed themselves, right? So, I'm not saying they don't have enough missiles to do damage to the West. They do, but there's a risk with them launching nukes. And I don't even think it's going to go there. And if they... Look, people are saying, oh, they're going to use a nuke. You don't just launch one nuke, okay? Why would you do that? If you send a nuke out there, there's going to be a nuclear... Somebody's going to pull the trigger and respond to you nuclearly. With a whole bunch of different nukes. So you don't just launch one. If you're going to pull the trigger on a fucking nuke, look, anything could happen, but this is the most likely scenario. You're going to launch a whole bunch of them. It would probably be wise to launch everything you got. Well, no, it wouldn't be, right? It'd be the dumbest thing ever. This is the nuke paradox. They're useless. The only thing that nukes are good for is psychological warfare. That's all that they are. Well, you're just going to launch one nuke where? Let's say they use a tactical weapon and US is true to their word. They're going to hit Ukraine with everything they got except nukes. Russia. Okay, goodbye, Russia. That's it. You're done. But Russia knows this. So they're going to commit suicide? No, that would mean they'd have to launch everything they got. But again, if they launch everything they got, then that's suicide too. This nuke shit is stupid, guys. Doesn't make any. It's all that's all it is. It's psychological warfare. That's all that it is. Yes, an accident could happen. Somebody could, I suppose, get triggered and something could happen. Yeah, but the chances of that are small, minute, almost non-existent. He's telling you what nuclear threats are all about. He's projecting it onto the West, but this is straight out of the KGB playbook. This is what they do and why they do it. But they understand that their own people are afraid of a nuclear retaliation, which would be far worse than it. Look, you could talk all you want about all these nukes that Russia has, okay? Bullshit. That's part of the game, right? If the collective West, who's to say China won't get involved? India, they got nukes too. It's just talking about this shit is stupid. It's just to scare you. That's what nukes are for. That's their best power. The biggest power is to fucking scare you. It doesn't make any sense. Nobody wins anything once nukes start flying. Nobody wins. Putin's goal is to win. So relax about the nukes. Now, that's why Russia developed Oreshnik, a conventional warhead missile, ballistic missile, that is kind of, or could potentially, look, we don't really know. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of information that's being withheld. Who's to say those videos are 100% real? The photos of the aftermath could be Photoshop. We just don't know. But let's just assume that it is everything that they say it is. That's a very powerful weapon that could destroy, NATO bases, perhaps, I'm no military expert, but perhaps U.S., maybe even the U.S. Navy, right? If you send enough of them, ports, airports, whatever, right? If you send enough of these things, they look to be powerful enough to maybe even decapitate NATO, right? If you send a massive enough strike without nuclear fallout, you could do a ton of damage. You could essentially get the same effect insofar as destroying your enemy's military power without using a nuke, without fallout and affecting the populations, but you get the same effect. So we have like a new player in the doctrine of how we conduct warfare between empires, and they need to figure this shit out. It's for the time being, and if only psychologically, it's a game changer right now. The game has been changed. So the West has to respond to it. They're going to ignore it at first. They're going to downplay it. But believe you me, they're working on countermeasures, and they've probably been working. And this is the thing, right? Russia comes out with this experimental weapon that took everyone by surprise, meaning they've been working on developing it. But the reason why we didn't know they had it is because they haven't been able to test it in its current form, right? Because when they launch something like that, the West, somebody's going to be able to pick up on it and investigate it, and they'll know something about this new capability. So this was the first time this thing was launched. That's why we know about it. But up until that point, it was a secret, meaning, well, you don't think the West is working on different types of technologies that they haven't yet tested it or not fully tested, that nobody knows about? Well, yeah, of course, they have a lot more money than Russia collectively, especially the United States. And clearly, it's fair to assume they're developing all types of different technologies that nobody knows about, okay? So yeah, this new missile is scary. No doubt about it. It's badass. If it is everything that they say it is, it could do a lot of damage and maybe even defeat NATO. I don't think so, but I mean, could definitely do a lot of damage. So now people are speculating that Russia has this weapon that's not really a nuke, but it's like a nuke that it could launch and destroy NATO bases and, you know, win the war, blah, 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 blah. Okay, even if we grant you that, like, Russia would be able to destroy, cripple a lot of NATO military might, especially their air forces, the Air Force. They don't have the manpower to just like march into Europe and take over anyway. But I mean, I'm not trying to downplay this potential capability that they have, right? And, you know, it's experimental. It looks good, but it's very expensive. How many of these things can they develop? Blah, blah, blah. It's going to take time. In the meantime, West is going to work on countermeasures and so on and so forth. But this idea that like Russia could potentially cripple NATO bases with this thing, well, yeah, just like they could with the nukes they got, right? What's the difference? What's the difference? Like, did that much really change? Because when they launched this missile, and look, I'm no military expert, but I feel like I haven't heard anyone talking about this, explaining it like that. There seems to be, again, a lot of psychological warfare going on. When they were launching this missile into this Ukrainian factory, they let the US know. Why? Well, because it looks like it could be a nuke and it's capable of carrying a nuke, right? So they had to let them know. So let's say they just decide to attack a NATO base and they send one of these things. What is the conversation between, let's say, US and Russia going to look like in that case? Well, they'll say nothing, right? All right, so they're going to make it look like they're launching a nuke, potentially a nuke against NATO base. Gee, what do you think the response is going to be? It would be the same as if they were launching a tactical nuke at a NATO base, right? Goodbye, Russia, right? Bye. Or maybe they'll just let this one go and see what happens if it's just one, right? And then wait it out and respond to it if it's just one. But if let's say they launch an attack on all NATO bases and maybe some bases in the United States just to cripple NATO, right? First preemptive strike, whatever the fuck it's called. What's the conversation between US and Russia going to look like? No conversation? Well, what do you think the response is going to be? Well, Russia just launched a whole bunch of nukes at us, potentially. We don't know. They're not answering the phone. They didn't tell us about it. So, and who cares if it's nukes or not? It's a ballistic missile, whole bunch of them aimed at NATO. What do you think the response is going to be? Well, it'd be the same as if they had launched nukes. Or let's say they do get on the phone, or Russia gives US a warning like, oh, hey, we're going to launch a bunch of Oreshnik, non-nuclear Oreshnik missiles at a whole bunch of your bases all over the world, right? But trust us, they're not nukes. They're not nuclear. They don't carry any nuclear warheads. Trust us, right? Oh, great. Thanks, Putin. No big deal, right? If it's like a nuke, right? Which is what they're saying, but it's not, but it doesn't have the fallout and like the long-term collateral and or collateral damage, potentially. But it's like a nuke insofar as crippling your enemy's military capability, then it might as well be a fucking nuke, right? I think the results are more or less the same. But it works. You know, it works for the time being. It scares a lot of people. It's more psychological warfare. Primarily. That's what this is. Okay? I mean, listen to Patriarch Kirill, however you say his name. He's telling you exactly what this shit is, right? And he's telling you how to react. Be brave. It's a whole bunch of bullshit. Thanks for watching.